function and see if the recording I get off of this is usable at all, because when you record directly to LinkedIn, they don't give you a copy that you can use. So I appreciate everyone who is joining here for being a part of the journey and being on this. So I'm going to go over to, it looks like we have 4 people in the room, so I appreciate you joining. I'm going to go and see if I can find the chat. Looks like we've got, say hi if you're here. So just make sure, if you can, just say hi in the chat so I know that you're there. I just want to make sure that everyone who needs to be here is here. Oh yeah, I probably put my stream key up on the screen at the same time. Maybe I didn't. Hopefully I didn't. But that's fine if I did. So I'm going to go through a couple of things today that we have on the docket to talk about. The first is really exciting, which is we're going to talk a little bit about the impact that AI tools are having in lower funnel advertising. So I think there's some really interesting updates that we have in the world of AI and advertising in terms of like creating that always on type of content. So we'll go through what those examples are. We'll talk about the updates that have happened in the US Copyright Office in terms of copyright protection of AI generated work, as well as what the public comment current process is currently looking like for AI trademarks. Then we'll talk about just like overall government interventions and policies. And I've got a chart that I'm going to talk through. And then we're going to talk about just like the overall state of AI in marketing. Lastly, we'll wrap up with the updates around ChatGPT, specifically around creating your own GPTs. So we'll go through a live demo of what that looks like. So this is part ask your questions, part fun experiment for me just to see new ways of creating these live streams. But most importantly, it's an opportunity to just like ask questions if you have any questions, and hopefully what we'll get out of this is your questions answered, me sharing some things I've wanted to be sharing, and then I will cut down most of this video into videos that I'll share on social anyways. So if you can't stick around for the whole thing, that's totally fine as well. All right. So I'm going to first start off. I'm going to check in on our phone to also check how things are going there. So I'm going to first start off. All right, sounds great. Okay, so what we'll do is let's go ahead and jump into the first topic, which is talking about that lower funnel advertising and what's being impacted there. So let's look at our ad creation tool. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with this tool here, but this is the Performance Max ad creation tool that just launched a little bit ago inside of the Google Ads platform. And why am I sharing this? Well, I wanted to show it because I wanted to share some of the really cool changes that are happening within the space of what I call lower funnel advertising or digital advertising. And so what this is this is specifically the new generative AI tool that Google Ads has presented as a solution for advertisers who want to create real-time ads or ads using generative AI. So what this is a generative AI tool for creating ads for Google Ads. Why is this important? So right now, what we are seeing from all of the major advertising players like Meta, obviously Google, we have up on the screen, Amazon, they all are creating these self-service AI advertising tools where you can come in and create an ad on the spot without an agency, as it would seem, using this. This isn't a TV spot. These aren't like creative advertising assets. These are those lower funnel, low lift ads. But I just wanted to give a demo of what it's currently capable of, because I think right now we're hearing in the news that there's these generative AI tools that can create advertising for us. And sometimes they point to these real tools that are currently available from Meta, Amazon, and Google. And I wanted to show you a little bit about what these tools actually look like. If you don't play around with the Google Ads tool, what we've done in the first and foremost is you have had to select an objective that allows you to use this Performance Max capability, which basically just places your ad across as many touch points as possible. I didn't mess with the campaign settings. The most important part I'm interested in right now is this asset group. And that's because we want to see what it would look like for us to create a generative ad in here. So we're going to just pick a brand. And I don't know if anyone has seen the Stanley, let's see if I can find it just doing this, Stanley tumblers, and how they did that really amazing kind of viral TikTok going around about a customer who had their car set on fire or their vehicle set on fire because of an accident or whatever the issue was there. But the Stanley tumbler survived, and now they've created this really amazing online campaign to help raise awareness of how great their product is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build our campaign today in Performance Max using this. So let's just go ahead and use this as our final URL. We'll send them to the tumblers. Now we want to add some images, and you can see the first thing that's happened is it's added some stock images of tumblers. We can also go directly to the website. So here we're scanning the Stanley Tumbler website. And this might take a second, and we can always come back and do this later, but it's going to just allow us to pull assets in from the website. Eventually, I should have just sent it to a better. Let's just try the general URL. There we go. So we can like start pulling in some of these holiday assets, for example. So let's say we're doing a holiday campaign. All right. And we'll even give them some like vertical assets and horizontal. I love how it already sees all of these asset types. Let's just select as many as possible. Perfect. And we could even upload, and we could use free stock images. We're going to save those. And so right off the bat, here we go. It's starting to take those assets that were created from the website and start creating generative objects. We can also go add a logo. So here again, it's just trying to find it from the website. It looks like it wasn't able to find it. Let's scan the LinkedIn and the Twitter account. This LinkedIn, or Twitter, excuse me, one looks the best. So let's add that. I need to turn off the monitoring on my microphone really quickly. There we go, monitor off. So now what we can do here is we've added the logo. So now it knows what logo it needs to add. We can also add video assets. And what's really cool is you can actually just search Stanley Tumbler on YouTube, or we can even just put in directly a URL. So like if we wanted to, we could go in here and do Stanley Tumbler YouTube account. And let's see if we can find the official Stanley brand account. Perfect. So we can actually go in here and look for maybe they have a holiday video. Yes, this one looks like it. And we can copy and paste this URL directly in here. There we go. And we can save that asset. I'm actually curious. I saw the create button before. I hadn't seen that before. And then what we can do, so now what we have is a couple of different ad types, right? So we've got YouTube as an ad type. We can see what a Gmail ad unit would look like, both open and closed. We can see what search would look like. We need headlines here. We can see what a display ad would look like. And then discover, which is location specific. This normally happens inside of Google Maps. And we can look at mobile and desktop, so we can see what both of those ad unit types look like on mobile and desktop, which is really exciting. So one of the things that they've shown off that will be in the Performance Max for most people is the ability at this images stage to use generative AI to create the images. My Google Ads currently doesn't have the ability to use generative image creation here. But that you can imagine what that user experience would look like. So what we're going to do, though, is we're going to see these headlines. So this is going to be using generative AI here. We're going to click View Suggestions. So here are some headline types that's just going to pull from the website. And these are multiple headlines because it's going to test these as part of your campaign. Same thing with the long headlines here. You can view the suggestions and add those there. Generally speaking, in the past, when I've clicked these viewed suggestions, it actually uses generative AI to generate all of these options, but you can kind of guess how this would work. So in these next steps, all of these little areas would fill out with what your suggested text is, and it'd be using generative AI to do that. So you can see on the right-hand side, currently it's like using our YouTube video in the display ad. It's using images that it pulled from the website. This is what these tools look like. They look very lower funnel, very ad-like assets that it uses AI to create these for. It's not anything groundbreaking. It's not the next award-winning campaign. This is using the already, in this case, it's using the already generated content from your previous campaigns to generate this. This is what it's going to look like for Amazon, for Meta. The next step that isn't showing up in this example would be that it's going to use AI to fill out the rest of this content for you, the copy, even use generative images to generate that. So hopefully what that did is that accomplished showing you what this process is going to currently look like to hopefully ease your concerns that you may have about what generative AI is starting to look like for building these ads. So I'm going to just double check to make sure that we don't have any comments yet that I might be missing. Hey, Jennifer, thanks for showing up to the stream. Yeah, so hopefully that kind of like helped build a concept or visualize for you what exactly those self-service ad tools are looking like right now. They're all going to look fairly similar to like that. The Amazon self-service ad tool as well as the Meta self-service ad tool all look very similar, where you put out your destination for the ad and then they use generative AI to help fill out the creative. So I don't think there's anything in this particular ad that scares me. You know, it's just like basically showing me different ad types. And even if it was using generative images or generative text, there's nothing here that makes me feel like AI is taking my jobs here. But if your business or your particular client has you creating these types of assets right now, and this is a majority of your work, then you might be concerned, because this lower funnel work is the type of work that AI is going after first, which is point me to the, you know, like we did at the very beginning of this process when we created the images, point me to the website where you want me to pull the images from. And from this point, I will go and generate more images and copy, and I will be able to place this ad for you. And it'll do it in a way that most likely will be much more directed than what you're able to accomplish, because it's got unlimited data. So that is what the generative AI tools are starting to look like for creating ads. And those are self-service platforms. So we can imagine that Meta, Amazon, and Google are going to our clients, to these brands, and showing off what these tools look like. The next thing I kind of wanted to talk about was the U.S. Copyright Office changes that have happened since the last time we've chatted, been on a live stream. One of the big changes that has happened in the United States, at least, is that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has declared that it is unable to allow you to trademark AI-generated work. In a training that I give to the different agencies that I work with, I give an example of someone who comes up with a tagline that is generated within ChatGPT. And they present this tagline to their client, and then the client then loves it and decides that that's their next ad campaign. I think in the example, I have them come up with like the next tagline for Nike. They replace Just Do It using ChatGPT. And Nike goes to trademark this new tagline, and they realize they can't. For obvious reasons, somehow you've disclosed by accident, maybe you self-disclosed, that the trademark was actually the tagline was generated within ChatGPT. And because of that, they do not allow you to trademark it. Obviously, you'd be very apologetic in the fact that maybe you didn't disclose that the tagline was generated in AI. And then you would then have to figure out what next steps would be to rectify that situation. Couple of things wrapped into that conversation. First and foremost is that what the Patent and Trademark Office is trying to do is it's trying to incentivize human innovation. That is the point for patents and trademarks, is basically to make it so that you can make money off of the ideas that you create. And their current standing at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office is that AI tools do not incentivize human innovation. It does not push humans forward to create their own work and content. And what it does is it actually makes it so that it's a detriment to human innovation. And what they are looking for in the next steps to allow for the patent and trademark of AI things is they are looking for the ability for you to show sufficient human authorship, which I know is a lot of words, sufficient human authorship. And really what that boils down to is you saying, I didn't just go into ChatGPT and write a prompt that said, write me a next tagline for Nike. That you put in time and research, that you put in your own primary data, like if you upload your own survey information about the customers, if you do a brainstorming session where you spend like a couple hours coming up with other ideas and then ChatGPT makes them better. That's what they are looking for in generative work, is what was the sufficient human authorship that makes it so that this output was unique to you and you alone. So one of the things that I teach is I teach sufficient human authorship and what that may look like. And how do we get to a point where we're showcasing sufficient human authorship? So one of the things that we want to start doing when we're trying to showcase sufficient human authorship is we want to basically show that we are creating this type of work. So let's go ahead and showcase what that page looks like currently at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And I'm going to go back here. U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, AI, what will we call that? AI comment period. So this is the current alert that's out right now. And this is actually the old one. They are not requesting comments for 2023. Ooh, maybe I don't have the exact link. This is also what's been really interesting, is how difficult they make it for you to find where you go to leave your request for comment, which is very nerve-wracking. But I will try to leave a link to the latest place where you can leave comment. But right now what they're doing is they're going and asking other companies, think tanks, industries, educators around their opinion around generative AI and what should be trademarked and not. And there's been a lot of major organizations that have shared their thoughts on this and what they think should be allowed to be trademarked. I think this is a super important space for us to start looking into. And so if you have a very strong opinion or an organization you represent, you should definitely leave a comment with the Patent and Trademark Office so that they know what your opinions are on what should be trademarkable or patented that is generative AI. So, but as of right now, all of the work that we are creating within generative AI, technically speaking, none of that can be patented or trademarked right now, which has some unique, interesting side effects of like, what does it mean to own our work that we create with AI tools? How can we sell the work that we create with AI tools to our clients and feel like we are sufficiently covered in terms of legal liability? Luckily, the major tools like OpenAI, which just showed their new legal framework as part of their developer conference, which we'll talk about more in a second, Adobe, Microsoft, all of the major players who are creating these AI tools, they're putting in the safeguards that will make it so that if you did ever have a lawsuit where somebody came to you and said, hey, that work that you created for that ad campaign was created using generative AI and you don't have the rights to that work, you have the legal backing of these large companies like the Microsofts, Adobe's, OpenAI, and they will come and protect you. I think it's called Copyright Shield or Legal Shield at OpenAI. Let me just pull that up real quick because I think theirs is the most interesting. Oh yeah, they're calling it Copyright Shield. I'll pull up the Verge article. Or no, it's not an article. Here, we'll just pull up OpenAI's website. So we'll go down here. So we'll talk more in detail about the things that were announced as part of the OpenAI Developer Conference. But, you know, they talked about it being faster and allowing for more context. I have an example of what that looks like. Improved instructions, the ability to have it cheaper. The API is now cheaper for if you're creating your own tools using ChatGPT's API, as an API, excuse me. I think the one that's the most interesting to me and what we were just talking about is Copyright Shield right here. OpenAI is committed to protecting our customers with built-in copyright safeguards in our systems. Today, we are going one step further in introducing Copyright Shield. We will now step in and defend our customers and pay the costs incurred if you face legal claims around copyright infringement. This applies to generally available features of ChatGPT Enterprise and our developer platform. So notice the fine print there. The generally available features of ChatGPT Enterprise, so not Pro, not free, and our developer platform, which means if you're using their API, accessing their API. So depending on how much money you spend with them, they're protecting your image generations. Now let's go check Adobe Firefly's legal indemnification terminology. Indemnification. Indemnification. Yeah, okay, this is the whole document. It's talking about the legal indemnification here. So in this document, in the legal indemnification document, they're specifically talking about all the things that they're going to cover for you. So if you're a customer, when your agreement with Adobe includes a link to this page's URL, then below are the list of eligible Firefly features that apply to the Firefly IP indemnity. So let's just see text to image. Allows the user to provide a text-only prompt which produces an output of an image, or generative fill. A lot of us are using generative fill. Allows the user to add content to a user-supplied image by identifying one of the image areas. Like, we're all using this, right? So then this talks about how the generative credits work. So it doesn't look like they specifically call out what they're legally indemnifying or like what that includes, but it looks like they're just saying like, hey, we're going to take care of your legal costs. And this is from September. I know that this is what they're enacting and telling people right now. It's so interesting to me. So both of these tools are allowing for that legal indemnification. We know that the Microsoft tools are going to be doing legal indemnification. So that's kind of the next step of that process, is making it so that corporations, agencies, companies feel confident that they can use these AI tools and feel like they won't be in trouble for using them or be legally responsible for using them in the future, which is very important for their adoption. All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about today was government interventions and plans. And then after that, I think we can get into some demos. So one of the things that we're starting to notice is big policy groups and nations are really starting to come up with what their policy is going to be around AI. So what I did on LinkedIn, oh, and my face is in the way, so I'll have to hide myself here. There I go. So what I created here was a little document that kind of showcases what we're seeing is some general thoughts. And what I did is I literally downloaded the PDFs, Word documents for all of these working groups or nations. And I put all those documents into ChatGPT and had it do this meta study, this like roundup of what are the top things that it's noticing. And what I really loved about it is he's able to summarize in these table views. And if you haven't seen me talk about prompt writing in the past, I love creating a table view for anything. And this table view really starts to lay out what I think is a great overview of what we're seeing around AI policy within government organizations or policy organizations. So the first one that I highlighted was in the United States, the executive order that was put out by the White House/US government around AI use within federal agencies. So you can see we've got title of document, purpose and goals, and scope, etc. So this one was specifically for federal governments and their agencies. And I think what was really important here is that the outcome was that in order for America to stay ahead of AI innovation, we need to get the best resources. If you go to the ai.gov website, I think that's the URL. Let me just check that out real quick. I think it's ai.gov. Like half of this website is basically around US employees building up their capabilities better, and also us bringing in other people from other nations to work on our AI capabilities within this country. It's like very interesting, the strategy that the US government is taking on AI, which is basically if you're not first, you're last. And so we've got to go all in. So it's got really interesting things here around like helping build your AI skills yourself, building those AI skills bring your AI skills within the US. So it talks about what's your process for immigrating to the United States if you have this special capability. And then on the website are also these administration actions, which this is where I downloaded the PDFs for the blueprints and the executive action itself, and then put all of that into my PDF. But yeah, this document is really about just staying ahead. That's really what the main consideration was from the US government side. If you compare that to what was happening at the very same time in the UK, this is not exactly from the UK government, so that flag is a bit misleading in the PDF I created. It's actually a declaration from attending countries around AI safety, which the US was part of this declaration as well. It's an international declaration to promote AI and its safe use. And there was a bunch of attending companies, and the emphasis here was the understanding of risks and how to address them. And kind of the big outpour, or like the big conclusion that came from this, is a strong emphasis on international cooperation and global dialogue around how to create pro-innovation governance around these AI tools, but make it so that there is a human-centered respect for fundamental rights. Like, you should be able to own your data. You should be able to assess the model that was used in the training for these AI tools. How do we as a society put our own input on how these models are generated and created to make it so that we feel comfortable with what the outputs are? That is all part of that process. In Canada, they had the Artificial Intelligence and Data Act that actually was passed. I think this is actually relatively old of an act, but it was to establish a regulatory framework for AI that is safe and respectful for all Canadian values. So very similar here. They encourage responsible adoption of AI by businesses. You should still respect the fundamental rights of Canadians and their values. There should be an initial focus on compliance. It should be voluntary compliance by these companies, but in the future, there might be a new government role, or as what has been talked about in the United States, a federal entity that would oversee AI and the models and the tools. So we're seeing that within the Canadian government there. And then lastly, I'll just get rid of my face again. In the EU, they had their Artificial Intelligence Act, I think, which is also old, which goes around at the same ideas here. So this PDF is available on my LinkedIn. I can also post it as a link within this chat where you can find it. But really helpful. It helps you understand a little bit about what's going on. And like with any document that you're going to see, you can input this PDF into ChatGPT and you can ask it questions. And I've even thought about, well, we'll get into that. I can also create a policy bot, if that's helpful, where you can ask questions of what the current AI policy is in the world. So I might try that. I might upload all of these documents again as a GPT. And I wonder how I might have those documents still around. I think I might have deleted them because I thought I wouldn't need them again. But yeah, you can upload these and create a little GPT. Maybe we'll try that as an experiment next. So going back to our demo side, I'm just going to check really quick, see if there's any questions. Hi, Paul and Maggie. Thanks for being here. Yeah, so what I'm going to do really quick as I start to pivot over to GPTs and creating a live demo is I'm going to just go over some of the updates that were talked about at the developer conference for OpenAI and how they're impactful to marketers and advertising in particular. Some of the major announcements that were made was obviously, and I actually have some notes that I can just read off of here. Let me pull them up real quick. So first off and foremost was the announcement of GPT-4 Turbo, which is this faster to use, more intuitive AI API from ChatGPT or OpenAI. ChatGPT Turbo allowed for longer context support, over 128,000 tokens of context, which is over 300 pages of a standard book. So as an experiment, what today we're going to do is we're going to look at every tweet I've ever sent, because I recently just downloaded the archive of my entire Twitter account, and we created a Jeff bot out of it. So we're going to look at that in a second. More content controls, which is super helpful to allow for more reproducible outputs and consistency. Better knowledge retrieval. So one of the things that they did is they updated the knowledge that's being pulled into ChatGPT to April 2023. So now all of the inputs you're pulling into ChatGPT are from a more up-to-date source from April of this year, and they anticipate that they'll be able to keep ChatGPT updated with more recent information moving forward, which is really helpful. Better knowledge, we talked about that. More modalities. So one of the things that you might have noticed within ChatGPT is the ability to do things like vision, where it can actually upload imagery and it can analyze those images. I have a really fun example of what that looks like that we can take a look at. The ability to do text-to-speech, speech-to-text, back and forth. You can have a conversation now with ChatGPT. Customization and fine-tuning is on the API side, where you can actually go through and do better customization and fine-tuning there. And then obviously the things we talked about, the legal indemnification on the enterprise and API side. So just to reiterate, if you're paying for enterprise or API access to ChatGPT, you are getting legal indemnification, but that legal indemnification does not expand to the pro version of ChatGPT. A very unique difference there. So this new, and then they announced that it was also going to be 2.7 times cheaper API access, which is very good for us. So ChatGPT currently is using this new GPT Turbo engine. So all of those things that we just talked about, those are now all applicable. But one of the things that we can also take a look at is the new tool that they announced, which was called Agents. And so I'm just going to start with the one that I created for myself. And I'm just going to close my little sidebar here. So one of the things that I had fun creating was this thing called Jeff GPT. And I'm going to just take you behind the scenes so you can see how these work. So what this tool allows you to do, and I'm just going to put myself in the middle of the chat, is create a GPT program or a private GPT program that is based on the training that you provide. So in this instance, what I've done is I've created a GPT called Jeff GPT. I gave it a name. You can go in here and upload a photo or use Dolly to create your own little image. I've given it just a description, a GPT trained on Jeff MacDonald's data. And then you write your instructions. So the instructions is exactly what you want this tool to be able to do. So based on this archive of tweets and transcripts of past presentations, develop a profile for Jeff MacDonald, a social strategy director at Mechanism with a deep knowledge of AI and how it impacts the advertising world. And you can write these instructions as long as you want. I kept mine fairly short. for this example. I think my example is fairly easy and hopefully easy for it to interpret. And then you can write these conversation starters, which show up above the chat box. I think these are really helpful because sometimes when you're going to be sharing these GPTs, which are these like user editable and creatable tools, having these down here where they can be these prompts or conversation starters makes it so people understand what the domain expertise of the GPT is that you're creating. So then after that, you have the knowledge that you can train it on. So I trained it on two separate things. The first thing I trained it on is a transcription of a presentation I recently gave at the VCU Brand Center on a topic called Do Human Things, which is an entire conversation on how we can better prepare ourselves for a future of AI being in the workspace. And it's basically, to give you the short version, it's my belief that we need to center ourselves around what makes our human experience unique. We can have a whole separate live stream about that. And then the other training data that I use is my downloaded Twitter archive. So I went to Twitter, or X now. I downloaded all of the information that it had on, or all of my tweets from the past 17 years, I think is the amount of data that it had. And then I cleaned that file. So it's the data that you get from the archive is got all the information. It's got how many likes it received, when it was posted. I was able to write I didn't write it actually. Inside of ChatGPT, I had it write me a JavaScript line of code that stripped all of that information and created a new JSON file, this output file, that had just the tweets data. And that was small enough to actually be uploaded. The original file I tried to upload of my tweet archive was too large, which is surprising because I know that they have that larger context, over 300 pages. So apparently all the tweets I've ever written are more than 300 pages of written word. But once I was able to mimify and shrink down that file, we now have the output file.json, which is all of the tweets that I've ever sent. So this is the training data. And now I can go and upload other transcripts for other presentations that I've given. And so yes, I will be uploading the transcript of this exact conversation I'm having with you right now as training data for Chef GPT. Then you can identify what capabilities you want the tool to have. So do you want it to be able to go out to the internet to receive new information? We have checked yes. DALL-E image generation. Do you want it to be able to create images inside of the GPT you've created? And finally, code interpreter. Code interpreter just gives it the option to be able to open basically a Python environment to be able to run code for analysis, for like analyzing a CSV document, examples we've given in the past. I have code interpreter turned off. It doesn't cost anything for you to put it in there. So I can literally just go in here and hit confirm. And now this tool has access to code interpreter. So we can just turn that on. It allows you to run code, analyze data, and work with the files that you upload and do more math. Why not? The next part is actions, create actions. And they haven't gone into detail a lot about what actions will allow you to do. I still haven't seen great examples of what this does, but basically it looks like it'll allow you to do things like fire off an email, link with another API service like Zapier to make it so that this can make automations. I think this is going to be the next powerful step, especially for marketers. The ability for you to say, create a workflow where a project manager puts in a timeline of, or puts in, not a timeline, they put in the information in the request for creating a timeline. And then this action fires off and actually puts a timeline within whatever project management software you're using. Or the ability to analyze code on your GitHub, and then once it passes a compile or a user test, it then fires off an email to your team that says like, hey, like the latest version of this code was just pushed to GitHub. You can see where the examples come. Wherever you want some kind of automation process happening, you could put it here. Now they do give you some examples here, which is basically the ability to pull from pet store data, a blank template, and weather. So in this example, they're showing the ability for you to pull the current weather into your GPT. So if you were creating a GPT, let's say, for example, that helped you get dressed every morning, and you wanted to be able to pop in and say, hey, I live in Richmond, Virginia, help me figure out what the perfect outfit is to wear today, you would want this particular action where it would go out and get you the latest weather and then bring it into your GPT. But I think there's going to be a lot of work here on what these actions do. And I think I'll probably like have a separate presentation where I go over just what these actions are capable of right now. And then this last function I think is really unique. And I think it's something that a lot of people haven't started to explain or talk about, but I'm going to talk about just for a second. Under additional settings, when you're creating GPTs, there's this function to use conversation in your GPT to improve our models. So this can go two ways. The first one is what I've heard when I talk to an AI group here in Richmond, Virginia that I'm a part of, is they've said that the longer they've used their GPTs, the better the answers have gotten. So one could say that that checkbox is saying that the inputted data that you're using within your GPT is making your responses better. Another way to interpret that is that all of the users that are using your GPT are contributing to a better chat GPT experience. So put it bluntly, they're using your GPT to train their model. Now, one of the things that we try to train at our agency about is that you should actually not allow the inputs that you're using to be part of the general model. And that actually one of the things we try to teach is privacy around anything that you put in with one of these tools. And so generally speaking, I'd want to turn that off because I don't want the inputs in the conversation data to go to the larger algorithm or model. But I'm leaving it on for now for Jeff GPT because I believe that it's hopefully going to make Jeff GPT better. So once you've configured your training data, what you want the capabilities to be, put in your configuration and your instructions, what you can do here is you can start testing it within the builder. So I'm asking the question from the prompts, how can ad agencies revolutionize their process? And it's going to answer, based on the insights from Jeff MacDonald's presentation, ad agencies can revolutionize their process in several ways. And then it's going to give the responses based on the data that I've shared in the past from Twitter and the presentation that I gave on AI in the ad industry. This is really cool because you can see this as an amazing tool for you to be able to summarize your POVs. So a lot of times people are asking me to answer questions around like what's going on in the world of AI. Do you have a point of view on the specific thing that's changing? Like whether it be like the self-service ad tools I was just showing. And having this capability built into the ChatGPT environment where I can upload my own answers that I've used prior to create a Jeff bot, it's super helpful because now I can go in here and say like, yeah, give me 3 talking points on LinkedIn about Canada's new trademark policy. You can see how this could be useful. And it's ever expanding because I can always go back and edit JeffBot to include more up-to-date training information from presentations I give, like the one I'm giving today. So super helpful there. Let's try this as an experiment right now. So this is one that I've already created. Let's try to create a new one. So we're going to go back here and we're going to go through the process to create a new GPT. So I'm going to click up here and I'm just going to go ahead and configure one. I'm going to call this AI Policy Bot. And this is a AI GPT. This is a GPT trained on the latest AI policies from governments and institutions or organizations. Let's call them organizations. And then for our instructions, I can say, you are a policy expert. And this is just like prompt writing. You are a policy expert. So we're going ahead and defining the domain that we want this AI tool to be an expert in. You are a policy expert in the world of AI and advertising. Let's make it specific to our needs. You will use your current knowledge as well as uploaded policy information. So here we're just saying, please refer to the training to better inform users of how their work is impacted by current laws, rules, social norms, and policies. Let's just leave it at that. And then for a conversation starter, we can ask the question, we can put as a prompt like, can my generated works be trademarked? I'm curious to see what its answer will be here. And then for knowledge, I'm just going to go ahead and upload that document, that AI policy document, as a PDF. And let's see if it's able to analyze the text in there. All right, let's go ahead and see what it's able to accomplish. So right now, this is probably pulling mostly from its knowledge that it has as part of just ChatGPT, April 2023. So let's go ahead and ask it a question more specific to the policy document we uploaded. So what are the differences between the U.S. executive order on AI and the EU AI policies? Let's see if it knows the differences. So here it's using the training data that we pulled from that AI policy PDF. And this isn't the most exhaustive information. I think we would have more exhaustive information if we uploaded the full papers from their websites, which I have access to. So I'll make this AI policy bot better. And here it is. Like, it's telling us the difference between all of these different parameters. I can ask for this information in a table view. Can you put the 4 key ideas in a table view to compare US to EU policies? And now we're going to get that table view. And if you know anything about how I like to create this work, I love putting in things in a table view. So you can see how you can make things that are really specific to your domain expertise. I'm just using Dolly really quick to create that icon. See how useful this can be. Like, here what I did is I uploaded that policy PDF. Yeah, I created other documents, and now we have this amazing tool where if I ever had questions about international policy around AI, I can come to this tool. It's trained on the latest data, so you could literally update this with real-time information about AI policy that's happening across the globe and use this as a tool to check your work. You could implement this across your organization, so you could augment what is federal and international policy with what is your personal company's policy, so that all of a sudden you have a bot that can answer all of the questions that your teammates might have around AI policy. So I actually can take this bot and I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to make it available to the public. And I'm going to send the link out in this chat right now. So you can go ahead, and if you have access to the pro version of ChatGPT, you can check out this right now. So I'm going to go back to full screen so I can copy and paste this in the chat. So there's our AI policy bot. And feel free to play with it and check it out all you want. See, we've got some questions that I'm probably a little late on. So Paul here writes, usually I order sketches for creatives from the artist guy and then bring them to a finished state through SD. Yes, yeah. So you're talking about using like Stable Diffusion and all of these other AI tools to create your own images. Is it possible for users to upload additional refinement files to my GPT agent model to share with other users? More specifically, do you think they'll add this feature soon? I don't know if they'll make it so that end users can update GPTs. And I think what will be interesting, like basically what you're kind of describing in best case scenario, is the ability for people to fork your GPTs to say like, wow, I really like what you've got here. I don't need to know the background of how it was trained, but I would love to fork it and make changes to it. And I am curious to see if they'll allow for the duplication. I say that because There is one element that I haven't talked about within these GPTs, which is the ability for people to then monetize these GPTs. So if we look at my, crudely created AI policy bot, one of the functions that is going to be part of this process is the ability for you to add this to the GPT App Store and make it so that other companies that are trying to figure out AI policy at their company can copy and paste your bot, and you'll get a kickback from their users. Now, the way they are basically describing this is basically how you'd make money off of a Spotify stream. You're making like 7 decimal places away from a penny on every user who uses your tool. And they're just taking it from that $20 or $60 or whatever a month subscription, depending on if you have Pro or Enterprise. And they're giving you a piece of that based on its usage. So it's here to incentivize human innovation. It's here to incentivize your use of the tool in GPT by making it so that you can make money off of creating these tools. But I think that would be a best case scenario, is if we can fork or make copies of them. Let's see if there's any other questions. Awesome. Yeah. Let's see. It's going to be really, I agree. Thank you for saying that. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that all comes together. So before I think that was pretty much all I really wanted to talk about. I wanted to show off GPTs and how they're being created. I think there's some really amazing creative examples how they can be used in marketing and advertising. You can imagine training a GPT specifically on your client and having it only accessed within your organization, a feature that is available in the enterprise version of ChatGPT. You can see it as a way to make it so it's trained on the best performing creative you've ever done as an agency. The performance data could be embedded in it, so you could even have it do an estimate of how those pieces of creative would perform based on past information. So you can build in right now a GPT, a predictive creative tool, which is really unique and cool. There's some other examples that I've seen that are really great. So one of my favorite GPTs that's part of what's already available when you walk into when you use the tool is this one called the Gen Z for Meme. And this is a meme/Gen Z tool. What's really cool is you can come in here and you can upload. So I'm going to just go off screen for a second. Let me find a meme that is, easy enough to share. So let's look for a meme about return to office. Let's see. When you're ready for office life to return. Oh, this is kind of interesting. So let's upload this to our GPT, our Gen Z meme analyzer. So we're going to say, explain this meme. And then the Gen Z bot, the Gen Z GPT, is going to go and it says, this meme is playing on the work from home struggle and trying to balance their job. So what it's done is it's used ChatGPT's Vision API, and it's read what's inside the imagery and then read the text, and it's using it to analyze what's going in here. The mom's got that send help vibe. So since it's a Gen Z bot, it does speak in this Gen Z language, which I think is a little cringy, but it's helpful for this next step. So watch what I'm going to do next. So create an TikTok script for this style of meme that the brand, let's go with, what would be a fun one? Sprite, why not? Would use to signify that you need a soda break from your family, right? And so what it's going to do now is, using its Gen Z knowledge of what it knows Gen Zers want to hear about, it's going to create for you this Gen Z TikTok idea. I have found that the TikTok ideas that come out of this Gen Z for meme GPT are better than the TikTok ideas that come out of ChatGPT at large. And I think it's because it's, again, we talk about domain expertise when we talk about open AI tools, or any AI tool, excuse me. When you are able to focus in on one knowledge set, you make it so that that processing time and power isn't spent also ignoring all of the other 80 billion parameters of knowledge it has, and it makes it more specific to the task at hand. So in this sense, it's creating a Gen Z like TikTok, which is going to be better than just a general Chat GPT-4 idea. So let's read this. Scene opens with a frazzled parent at a kitchen table turned makeshift office. Laptop on, kids running wild in the background with toys flying everywhere. Mom's got one kid hanging off her shoulder, the other one drawing on the wall. Voiceover with a beat dropping in the background. When your living room turns into a jungle gym and your work calls got more background action than a TikTok dance challenge, then you cut to the mom's face exhausted, and she looks up at the camera and holds a finger like 1 sec. Mouse, BRB. Mom escapes to the kitchen and opens the fridge, and the light inside reveals a cold can of Sprite. She grabs it, and you hear the crisp, satisfying crack of the can opening. Voiceover. It's time to hit the pause button, fam. Mom takes a sip, leans against the fridge. It's a whole vibe. Voiceover. Sprite break, because you ain't just a parent. You're a whole mood manager. This is a little cringy. A quick sip of the lemon lime chill, and you're back in biz. Let's get it. Sprite. For those fam bam, gotta jam, send help moments, yeet the stress, sip the fresh. So you can see this one went a little too heavy into the what it thinks is Gen Z language. But you can see how this can be like a super useful tool. One of the things I noticed about the Gen Z bot, it says it does have access to DALL-E. So let's see if it can do this. Create for me this script as a single image. And let's see if it can go and access the DALL-E format or DALL-E image creator and create us a Sprite image. Oh, yes, you can. Let's stop. Generate an image using DALL-E of what a Sprite meme might look like for this concept. Let's see if it can do it then. It says it has access to the DALL-E. Well, it's wrong because it says it there that it does. But you can see this can be super helpful in the work that you're doing. You can see how these are going to be super powerful. People are going to create ones that are Gen Z specific. We'll have the Gen Alpha bot. You can have a bot specific to your domain that you're working in, if you're business to business or whatever your client base may be. I think what this like general knowledge idea, or excuse me, like specified knowledge idea is what's going to make tools seem more useful because people will be able to use a tool that's specific to their job. I'm going to go check the comments one last time, and then I think we'll call it. I appreciate all the work that people have done today to take me through like my first stream in the last 5 months and sticking around. I heard the guys from Agent GPT want to create a cloud to test combining different GPT agents of private development to create an analysis cloud with roles for 50 to 100 agents at a time. Yeah, I mean, I could see that being a thing. Like that gets to that closer area where you can have multiple bots going out at a time, getting you to different things. I can see you also creating the actions that make it so they can go off and do their own things automated. My personal belief is that we don't want AI tools that can go off and do their own actions. One, mainly for being able to check for bias and inaccuracies. But yeah, I could see that being useful. And then multimodal is not as straightforward as OpenAI claims for now. I agree with that, Antonio. I think one of the things that I've really noticed is that, first off, I noticed that ChatGPT is just slower than it used to be now that it's this GPT-4 Turbo. I don't know if they're just trying to limit how fast you can work within the tool. But I've also noticed that it sometimes doesn't select the correct GPT tool. Like it doesn't know if it needs to be using DALL-E or data analyzer or vision. Sometimes it selects the wrong one. It won't go do the web browsing. And so I've noticed that, yeah, multimodal is not quite there yet. But like with any AI tool, I think it'll get better with time. I'm just going to do one last refresh, and then I'm going to call it. I appreciate everyone joining the stream today and being a part of it. I hope that you all got some questions answered, that you are all part of like this experience, and I appreciate you doing so. And yeah, I'll try to make these more common. For one, it just helps me stay on top of doing these types of live streams. For another, it makes it so that I have more data to train on, because I take these train scripts and I feed them into Jeff GPT. But yeah, feel free to leave more comments in this video. Obviously, this is going to be uploaded to to LinkedIn for you to be able to watch again. I'm also going to upload a copy of this to my YouTube account with annotations, so that way you can go to specific parts of the video that you want to rewatch. But thanks again. I appreciate y'all joining the live stream, and let's not make it so long next time. Maybe I'll try to do once a month at least. Have a great day. Bye.